Well, good morning, everyone. That's you all. All right. It's good to see you on Thursday of Super Week. And I'm super excited to be on stage with these two fine gentlemen. Look at Dhani. See, this is what Dhani does all the time.
This is fancy.
Yeah, he tends to go off script, which is the reason I love this man in this forum.
Helmets were not like this when I played.
Tell me more about that.
There's a lot of new technology
to cover
in this helmet.
Okay.
It would have protected my brain a lot better. So if I say something that goes off script, it's only because this was at fault. That's my fault.
Yeah, so what Dhani did, because he didn't have the technology he wanted, was he grew his hair really long, and that was his additional...
You know, to be honest, that's actually one of the things that my mom said was really good about my choice to grow my hair out. Now, as you see right now, it looks like a full head of hair. It was much more before. Now I have a full-on sunshade that's coming in. No one got that joke.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
You hit that button, oh, it just starts going back. That's called time. But my hair actually did compact some of the concussions that I could have had.
For sure.
So I think that the helmets took the technology from my hair.
That's right. This is like innovation, real time. So I want to introduce these two gentlemen. First, I'll say that I've known Dhani Jones for 20 years. So I met him when I was like 12 or 13.
Go ahead, talk about it.
We were in college together at the great University of Michigan.
Go Blue.
Go Blue. Oh, I heard some back there. Some Go Blue.
She said something about Hoosiers.
We didn't hear that.
I know. Some green. I don't. What is that? What is that?
I don't know. I don't even appreciate that color. My man Kelvin did not go to the University of Michigan, but he's an awesome guy just the same, despite his choice of universities. He was a young man, so we give him a little bit of grace when he made that choice.
I didn't know any better.
That's the right answer. But we're here today to talk about, we're all marketers. We all have an engagement with marketing, and clearly this week is around sport. Certainly the greatest sport in the United States and maybe the world, and some would argue. And many times, athletes are just part of the story. But we don't often get a chance to hear from the athletes in a more well-rounded way. So the objective today is really to have a conversation about that, and how athletes engage with brands and how brands engage with athletes in a way that's both authentic for the athlete and the brand. Far too often, we don't necessarily see that sort of engagement. We see an athlete holding a Sprite can and you assume whatever you want from that, but you don't really know what is interesting to them. So our objective today is to talk about that. So let me properly introduce these gentlemen. I'll start with Kelvin. Kelvin's a Texas native who just finished his 11th season with the NFL, playing with the Arizona Cardinals. He's a graduate of Southern Methodist University. What you may not know is he's on the executive board of the Lyles School of Engineering at SMU. He's a task force member of the Players Coalition. He's a professional speaker. He's an active technology investor, currently advising 3 venture-funded enterprises: Griffin Gaming, the largest gaming fund in the world, anchored by LionTree; Bench Strength, which is a spinoff of General Catalyst; and Next Play Capital. That's just what he does when he's not pushing linemen around on the football field. He's passionate about ending hunger.
How do you feel about him saying pushing?
That's what I do for a living.
But not hitting.
Well,
he's an offensive lineman. He doesn't hit people. That's what your job was.
You push people? Don't you want to make an impact?
I push.
You see that? Man.
With just one hand.
Aggressive, man. Aggressive. Way to reinforce stereotypes, man.
That's what I do for a living.
Come on, man. We're supposed to be having a calm discussion over here.
Have a calm discussion.
Man, turn the testosterone down.
We can't even get through introductions. Can we get through introductions? He needs to do your introduction now.
I just want to point out Kelvin did that with one hand to another grown man. So it gives you a sense of what he can do if he's not being a nice guy. Luckily he is. But what is this man passionate about besides investing in technology and pushing other grown men around? He's passionate about ending hunger, providing clean water access. I'm from Flint, Michigan, and as great as my city is, we've had water issues, so I totally appreciate...
As you bring water on the stage.
How fitting, right? Perfect plug for Clean Water USA. Thank you much.
That's very kind. Thank you so much.
and advocating for educational equity and encouraging minority youth to pursue STEM disciplines while addressing the digital divide. I bring this up, I'm an engineer, so thank you for recognizing that STEM is an important part of life, certainly for minority communities that often don't have access to the same.
Wait, I would say though, I gotta add something, because I think you also want the A in the STEM to make it STEAM.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, you said it right.
Thank you.
Let him finish.
I just want to make sure he said STEM. I know you care about art.
You see, I haven't even introduced him yet.
He's more than just like the heady part. He also loves the fact of like.
Can we finish the intro to get to the content? This is how we're trying to get to where we're supposed to get to. We got time. I'm
a Montessori kid. What can I say?
There it is, and now you have it. Here's your promo for Montessori. Be like this when you grow up. So this is Kelvin. Can we give Kelvin a round of applause? And on to Dhani, who you've gotten a taste of already. That's the right answer. Dhani Jones is a TV host, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and former NFL football player. He's a graduate of the great University of Michigan, won a national championship there. Thank you for that. Played with some Hall of Famers and spent 11 years in the NFL playing for a variety of teams, including those Eagles.
Why Eagles fly?
I figured that would come up from someone. After his playing career and in time since, he's co-founded Key Capital, an investment firm focused on diversity, where he is the chairman. He's hosted a number of television shows, and you can see why that would be an appropriate role for him. Dhani Tackles the Globe, which was on the Travel Channel, and Adventure Capitalist on CNBC. He's on the board of directors of a number of organizations. Multiband Global, which is a public tech infrastructure firm. Outside, which is the leading endurance sports and media platform. The Washington Nationals Philanthropies, which is the charitable arm of the Washington Nationals baseball team. And an external advisory board member of Fannie Mae. Can we give Dhani a round of applause?
Hey, did you all see that guy on Instagram that's like in Turkey that gives ice cream?
Yes.
That was like what you just did to me.
That's what he does. We need somebody to control that side of the stage. So it's interesting because when you do panels and things, you read people's bios and they're like, oh, don't read all the things. I very intentionally read all the things because one of the things that we don't do well enough with our athletes is dimensionalize them for the whole person that they are. We see them pushing a person or tackling a person or dunking a ball, but they're, as LeBron might say, much more than just an athlete, more than an athlete. And so we want to spend some time really understanding who these people are. I didn't mention that their family situation. Can you share a bit? You have?
Yes, sir. So just celebrated 10 years on Tuesday of marriage. I have 3 young kids, 8-year-old Kalina, 5-year-old K3, he's the third, and 3-year-old Janelle. So
cool.
Nice little crew.
Nice crew. What about you?
I think we're tracking the same schedule, except our youngest is 2 years old, and he's an absolute menace.
Wonder where he gets that.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. Apple doesn't fall
the other
far
day he was jumping off the top of the couch onto the ground, of which he had tossed a bunch of pillows, and screaming John Cena.
Oh. How many times did he watch his dad do that?
Never.
Okay, don't lie.
Even though I did, when I did Tackles the Globe, when I traveled to Mexico City, my name was, I participated in a fighting, it's kind of like wrestling, and lucha libre, and my name was Oro Solido, solid gold.
Solid gold. Live from Phoenix, solid gold. There was also a dance show back in the 80s, if you don't remember, right?
I had tights, I had a cape, I had a mask. It was amazing.
Can we cue that film? Isn't that somewhere available we can get our hands on right quick? Well, speaking of film, as mentioned, I'm with 72 and Sunny, Damien Journey, and I want to show you a clip of something that I think also speaks to the multidimensionality of players. Can you show a spot? It's from our 2020 2022, this year's kickoff campaign with the National Football League. We're their agency partner, and it's super fun, and I think it also speaks to this topic really quickly. So here we go.
Welcome to the 103rd season of the NFL. It's that time.
Let's kick things off. Let's go.
There's no fans like football fans. There's no game like this game. And there ain't no time like
It feels good to football.
So before we get back to, this conversation, did
We have a little.
did we get an invite to
I didn't get anything.
To what?
to participate in the kickoff?
Well, you know what
What had
happened?
happened
What had happened
What
was.
happened was,
All right,
You know,
get back to the content. My fault.
I'm gonna talk to my people and have them talk to your people, and we'll see if we can get some people.
No, but that was amazing. That was really good.
It was amazing. It really was. I ain't gonna lie to you.
And I would say that you watch the video and there's just you highlighted a couple different people, a couple different players, a couple different artists, if you will, and you could go through the entire NFL, the entire NBA, MLB. You can go through MSL, MLS, you can go through National Women's Soccer League, and there's so much talent behind just athletic prowess. And to be honest, I jokingly talk about the Montessori education of which I have, but the creativity is oftentimes what contributes to one's ability to play the game. There was an article that I read in the Wall Street Journal talking about the penalty kicks and the amount of strategy that one has to put into place, and the variation between the styles of ways someone takes a penalty kick. You could directly affiliate that with what you do outside the game, like the mental games that you play with the mental games you play in your own mind against your opponent are oftentimes curated and developed by the art that you collect and the people that you spend time with. The way that you play offensive linemen, as a tackle, has a creative component to it that makes you different, that I, as a linebacker, have to study. And that's probably the biggest superpower that most players have that most players don't study.
So this is a really interesting point, Dhani, that you're bringing up, because you're right. In this spot you saw there was DK Metcalf, who plays the piano. So this isn't a prop. This isn't a person who's near a piano acting like he's playing. He can actually jam on those keys. Justin Tucker is a concert opera singer. He actually does this. So having him at the end singing like he would, I would not try to replicate that, is a real thing. And it demonstrates that he's more than just an athlete. So to this point, brands often approach you when you were playing, and certainly now that you're playing, for activities with their brands. What do you love about how you're approached and the opportunities you all are or were presented with? And what don't you like? What would you like to see different about that interaction?
What I love is, can I operate with a brand that loves me for who I am? And I've had the ability to work with Lowe's for a number of years. As an offensive lineman, everything is about being in the trenches. It's about the hard work. It's about showing up to work every day. If you look at the people that go into Lowe's every day, there are people that have to show up, work every day. Plumbers, people in construction, people that are building, people that are thinking about, how to leverage technology and the consumer insights that they're, trying to bring, to those folks. So the ability to be able to work with a brand that sees me the way that they see their customer is something special. And I would say what I don't like is brands that just want to make it super transactional. Hey, hey, we do one event or you show up one time and that's it. The ability to be able to work with the brand for an extended amount of time, and it's now been almost 4 years with Lowe's, there's a true relationship and a true, genuine connection that's real. Their CMO has left and went on to another job, and she texted me on her way into town like, hey, Kelvin, let's find a way to sit down. That relationship is real. It's authentic, and I think that's what, as athletes, we really desire to have is authentic, long-lasting relationships with brands.
Love that. Dhani, what's your thought?
Yeah, I think, just to echo what Kelvin was talking about, I think it is the interplay, it's the relationship that you formulate with the brand, and having it being, the word that everybody uses now is authentic. But I think it's also something that you have an affinity for. The way that I've always worked with different brands, and whether it was Irish Spring or Febreze back in the day, I also had a partnership with Porsche, and so my angle was from the adventure and hosting side, and so it oftentimes took me down these routes of which I would not only present but also would be able to provide feedback. So what I would like is that when brands approach me and to work together, that they would actually take my ideas and put them into action. What I didn't like is when a lot of my ideas were just sort of passed over. Because if I'm the one that's supporting your brand, don't you want me to be authentic to the experience? There's a commercial I did back in the day with Febreze, and I did it in the locker room when I was on the Bengals. And it was just, I just asked if I could do a couple things here and there, and it actually made the cut. And a lot of the commercials, as some of you, you're involved in the commercials, what you oftentimes record or see on TV is not necessarily what was initially written in the script. If someone has done it correctly, they are allowing who's ever the ambassador, so to speak, who's ever the host, to be themselves. And sometimes that just goes so far away from the script. Good brands do that really well.
That's really, really interesting, because I see a lot of parallels with this relationship-based conversation and the ability to bring ideas to the fore and push the conversation further to what we do within advertising quite a bit. We're a strategic and creative agency, and many times we get hired, or people would like to hire us, just to do one little thing and then be gone. And the problem with that is it's really hard to build a brand of continuity if you have one partner who steps in and does something transactional and then is exited from the conversation. You can't build a relationship that way. And likewise, when you have clients who operate on the premise that you're here to do what we tell you to do and execute just this thing this exact way, you lose the benefit of the creativity and the strategy that your partner can bring to the party, which is what you're talking about as an athlete partner in these sorts of relationships. So it's remarkable that in many ways we're experiencing there's a parallel between how you engage and how we look to engage with brands. So on that note, we talked about what you liked and what you didn't like. You all are involved in so many other things beyond just brand ambassadorship. Can you talk about how brands can further support athletes in their endeavors, not just in the endeavors of the brand's primary objective? Do you have any thoughts about that? Like Key Capital or any of the others that you might, are there ways that brands can be involved in supporting the athlete's interest beyond just Febreze ambassadorship?
Yeah, so, what's amazing, and by the way, we have to give a shout out to Brand Innovators. I mean, it's amazing. Round of applause, please. I think it's, and I actually led with that intentionally because, I know the Brand Innovators team. They allowed me to be here with your influence of asking that we'd sit on the stage. And I think in the same way as players make their transition, just as you worked with them as a brand ambassador and they gave some ideas and you led an authentic, if you will, track with them building the brand, allow them to transition from the game potentially with you, right? The other day I was talking to a friend of mine in the financial sector. Big banks, investment companies, and others always want to have athletes be a part of their team. One of the most sought after group of people is to be involved in sales that a lot of times came from football. Well, if it can happen in the financial sector, why can't it happen in the consumer sector, right? There are those that are now working on projects on what's his name? He's a writer for a TV show.
Talking about Matthew Cherry.
Oh, well, Matthew has his own thing too. But anyways, so I always like the fact that when people that you work with in an industry, first you have them as a host or might have a brand ambassador, and then you move through and say, okay, you're transitioning. Get people to think outside, help players think about what they want to do next by inviting them into the world of which you've allowed them to be a part of, so that you can now be a part of their new journey. In other words, be a mentor to them, right? If you've created an authentic and connected relationship, then why should that relationship stop after the brand, right? That transaction shouldn't just be after the check is cut and you've had a great commercial. It should be much more. It should be farther along than that.
And I would just lean into that. Mr. Glenn is over here recording, but I happened to see him at Cannes last year. Last year. And what I loved about, what he's been doing with the NFL for a number of years is he actually gave me his number. And he said, Kelvin, stay in touch. That is probably one of the most powerful things that brands can do for athletes, is to allow us to learn with you as you are continuing to learn. As you are continuing to grow your brands, build the businesses that you all are, building, increasing revenue, making sure that you're meeting your KPIs from an EBITDA standpoint. Allow us to be a part of that journey with you. All we do is want to learn at the end of the day. And I think the ability to be able to do that with executives in situations and rooms like this is what it's really all about. It's time out for just, hey, come and hold this Coke bottle. Hey, just come and, shoot this commercial spot. What does it look like to be a part of your advisory council, on the board level? What does it look like to be a part of the beta? Every organization has something or a new project that they're about to start beta testing. How can we as athletes be a part of that conversation and bring us into the room to have that conversation? We may be able to see something or know something. And I think athletes have probably the most eclectic network on the planet because of the access that we have due to what we do for a living. I've played in 4 different markets. I've played in Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, New York, Arizona, and I'm a free agent now, so I'm going to be probably playing somewhere else. I have networks that span all over the globe in some senses. Allow us to be a part of the journey with you, and I think that's what athletes are really looking forward to, especially as we get ready to transition to this next part of life.
So just to parlay off of that, and I was just remembering the name, is Richard Mendenhall, who's a writer, who's done a fantastic job transitioning from the NFL to now doing stuff on television. But, you think about, I had a relationship with Kevin Plank at Under Armour. Parlayed that relationship with Robin Thurston, who sold Map My Fitness to Under Armour. Once Robin Thurston left Under Armour, he had created one company, and now he's running Outside. So, we were talking a little bit before about Outside Magazine. Outside is the largest outdoor company in the country, right? We have Outside Magazine, Clean Eating, Yoga Journal, et cetera, right? Triathlete Magazine, we're the biggest. Robin called me and asked me, he said, you know what? You have a lot of perspective. You have a lot of relationships. You've played in the New York, Philadelphia, Cincinnati market. You know a lot of brands. You know a lot of people. You understand a perspective that we don't have on our board. Would you like to be on our board? Right? So exactly what you talked about is exactly what one person allowed me to do and what I love doing now.
See, I love this because it means that these guys can be involved in ways that brands don't typically think about. And there's another part of kind of the brand ambassadorship that I think gets overlooked by brands, and that is the type of individuals that they choose to associate with from an athlete level. It's very easy to say, let's get LeBron or let's get Odell. But what about the athletes that may not be the premier athletes in name only? They're clearly high-powered, amazing, top top 1%ers in their sport, but they may not also be the ones that have the biggest name. Can you talk a bit about that, Kelvin? Because there's very few offensive linemen that get a lot of shine. So
We get no shine.
we get no shine, right?
But I think what's special is, as an offensive lineman, I talked about being in the trenches earlier. How many times do you all talk to the engineers within you all's firms or within you all's companies? How many times do you talk to them just for the sake of it? Just for the sake of it, sometimes, right? The thing is an engineer is only called upon when there's a bug that just happened, right? Most likely.
That's right.
Being honest.
That's right.
You don't talk to an engineer unless, hey, we just got a bug. We just got breached. Come fix it. That's how offensive lineman is. Offensive lineman, we don't get no love until the flag is thrown. Hey, you gave up a sack. You had a penalty. So it's like we get it. But the thing is I think that same thing goes for, you have these A-listers, which are great. I love my boy Larry. I love Odell. I love, Tom and Aaron, who are, just premier at what they do. But there's a level of athletes that, we're not the Hall of Famers, which is okay. We played the game. We played with them.
They played 11 years. They're damn good.
But that's not what a brand always wants. But I will look at what is the engagement that athletes are willing to give your brand. And I think that's where you need to be thinking, not just, hey, I got all the eyeballs in the world, but how does that storytelling really play into what our brand is trying to portray to the consumer base? And I think that's where there needs to be some more thought and some more, some progress that needs to be made with not only just looking for the A-listers, but how are some of those mid-tier guys across sports where they can be able to help the brand with the storytelling and making sure that they're engaging at a much deeper level than just eyeballs for the sake of eyeballs.
And I would even say that some of the mid-tier players, and I appreciate that because I'm a blue-collar worker. That's how I think about it. Right? Blue-collar workers have to think about life after the game. We don't have guaranteed contracts. I'm just talking about NFL. NBA has guaranteed contracts. MLB has guaranteed contracts. I don't even understand the market structure around NHL. I know that some of those soccer players, man, they get paid.
Broke off.
Really paid.
Right? So, but you think about the mid-tier players, we hustle. Right? I played middle linebacker, and the reason I was allowed to be on the field wasn't necessarily because of my athletic ability. It was because I knew what everybody else did on the field. I take that same thought process to everything else that I do. In some way, shape, or form, I know what you do. You say your name, where you work, there's some level of connectivity. Kelvin was talking about before, right? We have networks, we have relationships, we have knowledge, right? It's about that knowledge and it's about that network. I utilize my middle linebacker skills in order to sort of see everything that's out there. Mid-tier players, regardless of the position that they're playing, might have a similar type of perspective. Obviously, they have their own, and that's what we like to work within. And I think that if you're talking to those types of players that are not necessarily like the blue chip players, they're thinking about, okay, how do I leverage my skills to do that off the field? And all it does is just take one person to say, hey, Dhani, you know what, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about Uber Eats. What's your perspective in the Philadelphia market so I can help you with that, right? So it's about the hustle factor, I think, in that mid-tier player that knows they're not going to play that game for as long.
I love that. I'm going to throw this out to the audience. I'll say that this year at Cannes, you might have heard me mention this earlier, we are hosting something called Sport Beach. And the idea of Sport Beach, for those of you who've been in Cannes, there's lots of really cool beaches. Our beach will be featuring athletes, featuring playing sport. For those of us who like to shoot hoop, my three-point game is unbelievable. Don't get on the court with me. But they'll be playing sport. They will be talking sport. We'll be engaging with sport at a much deeper level across the spectrum of the business. And so we want to have this conversation today. It's just kind of a signal for what could be the case if you happen to be going to the south of France in June. But with that, any questions from the audience? Any comments?
Right in the middle. Go ahead.
Yeah. So previously, I ran the athlete marketing at Red Bull, and one of our big important parts was we wanted an athlete that was all in on us. And instead of chasing after followers or their name, we saw that somebody that was committed to the brand drove way more value to us long term. And so now at Icon Source, where we've put together thousands of endorsement deals, we've seen a lot of the top expected kind of quarterbacks and running backs respond to a lot of transactional deals, like how much. And then we see some athletes write this long bio. This is why working with your brand would be so important to me. And we've seen like a really unique shift in productive endorsement deals, going away from those kind of expected top tier athletes to a wide range of difference. I mean, female athletes are one of the most productive components to our marketplace because they are just so involved in that relationship, which is interesting. So just something I wanted to add on to exactly what you guys were saying.
That's exactly right. I think there's a shift, and as brands are always looking ahead for what's coming next, athletes are expecting more than just to stand with a can and smile about it. They want to be engaged at a variety of levels, and you're seeing it even there in your experience as well.
And I would say this, a couple of years ago, it wasn't even like that, right? So I think it also changes with the times, right? And so, but I would also say that there are some brands that are just more transactional, and that's how they want to work, right? They're playing closer to the line, they're a little bit more safe, and so there's a certain level of authenticity that also happens with the brand in and of itself, right? Red Bull has notoriously been outside the lines, right? By the way, I want to jump in one of those airplanes and just like fly down. I don't know how far I can go. I actually want to be in one of those airplanes that goes over the water. That's so cool. I actually visited your facility in California several different times, but Red Bull, that's part of your brand. Dawn, it may not be a part of its brand, right? I'm just doing it. Dawn might actually be doing something like Red Bull. I don't know, but I'm just saying, as well as I know, right? So it has to be authentic to you, just the same. Another question, right here.
Hi, Dhani. It's Tiffany Black. I work for Google Cloud. What are the conversations you're having with other athletes and former athletes about how they can express like what brands and things they're interested in? Because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm not going to post about this unless I'm getting paid for it. But like, we don't know about it until you do, and then we want to do something. Like, I'll give a great example. We just did a commercial with Shaq, and people are like, why would Google Cloud do something with Shaq? But he loves Workspace. He uses the calendar, the Gmail, the everything, right? And so we were able to put something together, but it's because he expressed it that we were able to approach him authentically and be like, yeah, it makes sense, because he actually uses Google products, right? So are you having those conversations with other athletes about like, hey, it's a two-way street in order for you to be able to get these additional brand deal endorsements?
I think it's are brands willing to actually go and look for it? Because the thing is there are guys across the league that talk about what they do all the time. I mean, I got a teammate here in town, offensive lineman. I'm a plug for offensive lineman for the rest of my timers. I'm just letting you know. He has a trucking business, loves trucking. Like, that's just what he does. He does it extremely well. Like, there's fuel partners. There are, all types of partners in that regard. You want to go and talk about tech. There are a number of techies that are within these locker rooms across, I would say, pretty much all the guys in some shape, form, or fashion are using Google. Now, to the extent of workspaces and understanding how it all works, that's another story. But I think if you are willing to go and actually look for it, there are guys all across the sports landscape that are doing things within your arena. I just think brands have to be willing to look. Now, I think it's also the brands and the agencies. The agencies are usually just pulling from a list. I was at an agency. I dropped my agency and was like, I'm gonna just go do this myself. I can go and build, again, the authentic relationship with the brand myself and go and broker the conversation instead of paying 3% to an agency that's gonna just put me on the list with everybody else.
3%?
Yes, I don't pay nothing. I represent myself.
Wow.
Exactly.
Tag us. I'm on social media for Google Cloud. I'm doing social listening all the time. Tag us, mention us. I'm looking for
But you could tag and you could work with some of the brands to help them find the athletes that are trying to connect with them. See, that's a unique partnership that you might have with a P&G or Unilever. You could with Stellantis. Doing that social listening to kind of find out where the offensive linemen are that like trucking, but haven't been connected to Freightliner or haven't been. I like trucking too, by the way. Back in the day, I was going to be a long haul truck driver, right? So, like, how do you find that? Because you might say as a brand, well, we didn't know where they were. We don't know where they are. We don't know how to do that. So Tiffany's right in front. You can talk to her. She'll help you find all the different players. But one of the things that I like to do, you asked about talking to players. I like to hear and listen
to what the brand wants.
Well, I like to hear what Kelvin wants. Because I think sometimes as a middle line, I come back to middle linebackers because you're plugging the offensive line, I'm plugging middle linebackers. My job is to be in the middle and listen. If Kelvin says, you know what, Dhani, I'm thinking about joining a board. How do I join the board? Now, it's my responsibility to help him think through it. Now, if he's talking to somebody else about the board, it's also my job to listen and ear hustle and walk over. Hey, Kelvin, I heard you want to talk about a board. Hey, let me introduce you to Tiffany over at Google. Let me introduce you to Dave. Let me introduce you to a couple different people. So I think it's also the responsibilities of the players themselves to utilize their gifts and talents to help other players find, their destination, so to speak.
And to echo that, I actually asked Dhani that. So this is not like he's making this up as he's going. Like the boards that we mentioned in the bio, I asked him, I think it was this time, last year, a little before last year. Dhani was on the board. He was on the public board at the time. I was actually taking a board readiness course, getting ready to start doing board service, and actually called him and asked him. So it's a combination of both. It's a combination of both, though, in my opinion.
And if you want people to talk about Google, 3 of us really love it, and we're available to have a conversation with.
I got a business card in my pocket.
Yeah, don't worry. It is not a conflict with 72 and Sunny. I'm happy to support you in your efforts. Yeah, see, look at this. This is engagement, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
This is how it goes. Right there on the spot. You didn't write my name on the back of it, but we'll step that part of the game up.
But I would also say, just off what Kelvin just did, I think players have to be able to see your action in order to feel as though they can have that action. And so in the same way, we say to you, be proactive. One of you has to take the first step and the rest have to follow and see. Oftentimes we as people are highly conservative in the things that we do. So I don't fault people for not taking the first step because sometimes that's just in your nature. I would only ask that you go outside the box a little bit and just try to push the envelope and meet people, that maybe you wouldn't traditionally, have gone that route before. You got to step outside your comfort zone.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to shut it down. My man Kelvin has a very important place to be. Thank you all for giving us time.
You dropped off a business card and that's it. You're out.
Yeah, exactly.
I see why he came here. He was like, look, I came here with one reason. I got a couple business cards. I'm talking to everybody.
See, listen, here's the thing. It's about relationships. I said that at the onset. I lost my best friend from high school this weekend, going to the funeral service, going seeing them, coming right back tonight, and start being back with Lowe's in the morning, a brand that I enjoy. But it's all about the relationships, going to go pay my respects, so don't do me like that.
Indeed.
See, shut that down real quick. You see that?
Wow.
That's the offensive lineman and the middle linebacker. There we go.
Thank you all.
Wow.